Joining us here on State of Play in the when he dropped that bombshell on Monday. So this afternoon on this politically incorrect show, we are asking a very simple question. Alan has quit. The MPP is definitely shaking, even if they tell you they are not. They are. But the question really is, did Alan commit political suicide? And that's a conversation that we need to have. I don't know what your verdict is on that particular question. I don't know what Raymond's verdict is on that particular question. But Raymond, it's been an interesting week for Alan Kyerematen and for the MPP themselves. If you listen to the MPP, they say, it's okay. This won't hurt them as much. Do you believe the MPP when they say that?
No, I mean, let's be fair. If the MPP, they're also minded. They can't come and tell you that, we are really going to suffer. We are likely to lose the election because of this man's singular decision. Of course, with others around him to go independent. If they tell you that, they are not giving the same strength and power and hope to their followers. Yeah. So the biggest call they can make is that, no, what they are looking at, and everyone's look at it this way. In the last election, the MPP had 51.3%. Yeah. That 51.3%. Look at why. You see, one of the reasons why in the voters...
Barely made it through.
Yes, 1.3% more. So you think about it, with 1.3% less, if Mr. Kyerematen, and not even he himself alone, all the other third parties together. Now, it's every political party, mindful of what has been the trend over the years, from John Kufuor straight down to even the NDC after John Kufuor, until MPP came into power. Political parties end up losing 3 to 7% of their percentages in the second round when they are attempting to break the 8. So it's the reason why
Black Market Records.
Put it on them.
feeling that, we've lost it. So they'll not come out. They'll actually be a bit timid. Two things will work against the MPP automatically. Losing the numbers they are talking about. They are going to lose like 1 or 2 or 3 percentage points in the next election. Yeah. Because that's what the trend suggests. Ideally, having a new candidate is problematic. That's in the person of maybe Dr. Bawumia or Ken. Having a new candidate is problematic. Secondly, and it doesn't matter if your new candidate was running mate. Professor Mills was running mate. He didn't work well for him. Yeah. Indeed, everybody knows that the reason why in the case of John the 8th, and this is what I see Kyerematen's first action will be like, you look at that scale properly. It's the reason why today, you look at the conversation, many people within the MPP are saying, no, we have to prevent minors from coming on the electoral register. You know why? More people get on the register. It's a threat to the MPP than the NDC. Yeah. New voters tend to vote for the new candidate, for the opposing candidate, because they want to take back power. They want to be part of the decision making. They have felt a system and they want to try something else, That is the dangerous path that you don't want to go. So if you keep it from previous years on and you lose less than 1%, you are still likely to be the one winning the election. That's what the MPP will count on.
And to back your point, I want to go back all the way to 2000. Yeah. The first time a party was attempting to break the 8. Yeah. Something very similar happened then to what is happening now. And for me, that similarity is exactly. It's more akin to what is happening right now. And that is the NDC scenario of Gusitano breaking away to form his own political party, a reform party, and contested in that elections. In that elections, Gusitano secured more than 1% of the total.
Dangerous mark.
Dangerous mark. And the more than 1% that he managed to get, the safe assumption is a lot of that will be numbers that should have gone to the NDC that came to him. What happened in that election? It pushed it into a runoff. And when we go into a runoff,
incumbent loses.
Now, you look at that scenario and you put it side by side what's going to happen next. It's very, very similar. Again, the MPP is approaching the 8th year, about to attempt to break the 8th, which hasn't happened before. They have a breakaway of another individual who is also going to contest. Now, it has to be said, Alan, but then the only thing that is different is that Guzi chose the vehicle of a political party.
That's true.
Alan has chosen the vehicle of an independent candidate. That is, it's a great unknown. I mean, the independents who have done that before haven't really
In fact, well. They don't perform as well as even political parties. People who move out of parties actually form political
parties and contest.
Yes.
Except
their history is not that good.
In that history, we've also not had a person who comes out of one of the two main political parties and goes independent. The independent
That's
candidates
true.
we've
Have
had
always been people who came all of a sudden
out of the
from
two
somewhere
party
and
and
said,
then go. So again, that is also a dynamic that we don't know how that will pan out. But don't make any mistake about it. Alan Chamantin's decision to go independent will hurt the MPP. Yesterday,
way
when
or
I
the
asked him
other.
the question about Ashanti region, he was categorical that is the place that he believes he's going to get a bulk of the supporters from. Those who are going to back him in the 2024 elections. Now, then a challenge because of all the grievances.
as happy
As
as
happy.
the expectation is supposed to be. Yeah.
Yes, because of all. I mean, when was the last time you saw a majority leader of an incumbent party that claims a particular region as a stronghold being chased away from his own constituency?
For not doing projects.
For not doing projects. What was the last time
For
you
not
saw
completing that.
Right? So that is...
And they almost marked the man. You can see that the people were all over the place.
Yeah.
Some of them even throwing sachet water and other things. I mean, but for the cameras, and then this is what we are talking about. The kind of scene would have been something else.
Yeah. So there is a constituency in the Ashanti region that is not happy with the party traditionally voted for over the years, right? The key question then becomes, in the 2024 elections, assuming that we didn't have, and my submission is, based on history, they would not have. They would have stayed in the region doing ballot box. And we traveled across many, many constituencies. And that was the first time I realized that if a party is about to lose an election, you will see it first in their strongholds.
Yeah.
You will hear people say they are tired. They haven't seen
Ghana, are you ready? Mark your calendar as the Makers House Chapel International presents.
seen enough commitment to them from the party they've supported all their lives. And so this time, they are disgruntled, and so they are not going to
They're
vote
staying
at all.
back.
They're staying back. However, now, that argument holds true for Ashanti region next year, I believe. But then you have another option. Somebody they identify with, one of our own, right? Who is now in the race, who came from the MPP. What do you think will happen? The likelihood is, they're not going to vote for the MPP, but they might be tempted to give that vote to Alan Chamanti because they identify with him. And that is the danger that the MPP faces. And we've always said this point, and nobody should underestimate it, that MPP needs Ashanti region to show up in its numbers in excess of 75% all the time to win.
Yeah.
And I asked Alan Chamanti the question, you're seeking to do damage. He says, I don't want to do damage. But the mere fact that he's standing
is enough to send a signal to even whittle down the votes, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
If you were to be from any other region, perhaps you could even discount it if you were to be from, let's say, the Western, the Central, because some of these regions, they are known to not vote in one way.
Yeah.
The Eastern region is even not as united as many people will actually feel. In fact, the Kobo areas have never voted for the MPP. So predominantly, you don't expect their votes to go in the MPP direction. But the Ashanti region, you can isolate the areas, the settler communities, the Asawasi places that have consistently deferred from voting for the MPP.
Yeah.
For a place that has more than 3 million votes, one will certainly be convinced. See, you may need about 5 or 6 million votes to win the election. If you have 3 million votes, or half of that, or more than half of that, or 70% of that, Evans, you just need to have about the Ashanti region. The only catastrophic difficulty that the MPP, you see, when the odds are against you and your trump card is not reliable, so you are in the horse race, you are actually going for the last bout, and the horse that you rely on most is limping. This is what's likely to happen. It's not as if Ashanti will not show up. MPP more likely will win Ashanti again. That's without doubt.
They'll definitely win Ashanti.
Yes, but the percentage is what matters. As for winning, it has never been in doubt. If it does not show up the way it should be showing up, it also chips away some of the votes. And if we spread across the country with sentiments, with economic difficulties, with all the other compounding factors that may make incumbents look like you don't deserve another term, it is like having the biggest odds all piled up in front of you. It takes miracle to wade through that and win. Can they succeed? And this is politics. This is a social science. What people cannot do with social science is to tap their chest and say it can never happen. But what you can actually reasonably foretell is that it will be very difficult for the MPP to pull all of the votes together. I've seen people start making reference to the Northeast votes. Take the entire regions, the 5 or so regions of the North, and drop their regions vote into the Ashanti region.
Yeah.
And use that together. There is a problem somewhere that ought to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I think that Martin should still go ahead. But it is up to the NPP within the next, from now to the next year, to convince the Asante people that, listen, this party is what you fought for, not individuals. Remind them of their historic figures who have played very different roles. Force President Kufuor to go and speak in Kumasi, begging the people to realign, and at best get all your. Of course, there'll be some votes dropped, but you need every single arsenal in the area while you try to marshal across the country.
Yeah, I mean,
if that works perfectly for them, maybe they will inch towards the kind of numbers they would want. But you think about it this way: if I'm Chair Martin today, even if I don't win the elections, I need to prove a point that I'm a formidable force.
commit political suicide
See,
by this decision. It is a tricky question.
yeah,
Why? Because let's first address it with history.
yeah,
Let's look at, in the Fourth Republic, the key personalities who have broken away from parties and gone on their own.
yeah,
First of all, Rekubobe,
yeah.
okay, left the MPP, formed his own party,
Ghana Union,
yeah,
UGM, United Ghana Movement.
and contested the 2000 elections. What happened to his political career?
It almost died with 0.3%.
Yes.
In the national election of the Republic of Ghana, the man had about 23,000.
And since
Every regional
and,
counted.
and since then, his political influence, of course, I mean, under
Kufuor gave him a
yes,
role
Kufuor gave him a
from VRA, yes,
lifeline,
yeah.
yeah. But in terms of him as a politician in the true sense of it,
As the legitimate family member of Victor Usu, as a direct link and descendant of Victor Usu, who is actually the MPP's guy, the guy that they are looked up to. So if you look beyond the Buziers, the Danquers, the other generation below that is the Victor Usis and the Pawulis. Of course, they are actually between the two.
you notice
Who is supposed to have been a massive influence in the party, he died off completely. Not died of us, he became useless in Ghana. But
you just
he
hit the nail on the
lost-
head. His influence
completely
as a
extinguished.
politician within the MPP waned over time, right? To
Yeah.
the point where, of course, he was suspended, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So that's him. Those are just mere facts. Guzitano.
Yeah. I mean,
Same.
even he, 78,000 votes,
Yeah.
1.1%.
But, yes.
But do you know that there was a point that when you see Rollins, you have seen Gusitano. If
True.
you see Gusitano, you have seen Rollins.
True.
That was enough for people to think that, oh, that guy looks like Rollins.
Yeah.
The guy looks like a reasonable replacement of Rollins in all form. Charisma, the kind of stature that he built around the country. But again, equally extinguished.
Extinguished right after that. Then let's come to Dr. Obed Asamoah, Bid Zedin, Frances Essiem,
Yeah.
who broke away after that very controversial Eastern Regional Conference of the party of the NDC that then led to this whole, division of the party. And then they separated. Okay. Obed Asamoah before that had been the party's national chairman.
Yeah.
Had been the
Basically, the guy who took over from Rollins in singular form. Yeah.
has been the Attorney General.
Yeah.
Right? So in terms of cabinet roles, he's very similar to Alan Chamantin because, of course, he was also sitting in the cabinet.
In fact, for a very long time, like Chamantin has occupied from Kufuor's time.
Yes. And then also then decides to break away. What happened to his political life after the 2008 elections? He came back
To the NDC.
to the NDC.
But
Of course,
But today, if you're even calling NDC serious people that they are negotiating with or consulting for any future, I doubt climbing McCarthy Hill will be one of your options.
So again, we saw that effect on him. Bid Zedin also joined him and came back.
Yeah.
I mean, he got, some favors to the party in terms of some positions that
and all of
were
that.
appointed. But that Bid Zedin, again, General Secretary
Of the past.
of what we know,
That rising star.
yes, waned over time. Also, Francis is never, still with the MPP. So, but again, Francis Essiem was a political force. If you remember the Francis Essiem of the early 2000s,
You could count.
was a firebrand.
You could count.
You know,
Women who were like her.
in fact, the point
There are
of
a few of them, actually.
Yeah. Virtually none. In fact, the
Yeah.
only person who could rival then was the MPP famous, Madame Ogede.
Hawa Yakubu.
Hawa, who was of course very
Yeah.
profound. But there were very, very few women like her at the time. But post that, we've seen how that sort of fire that she obviously exhibited,
aura that
and the
was around
aura
her,
and the
yes.
energy that, of course, we've been encouraging to have among the women politicians, etc., had waned over time.
That's true.
So you really look at it and say, what would this mean for Alan? Okay. I tend to believe that in terms of Alan's political future, it may be the same as those before. But yesterday he made the point that with respect to all these individuals I've mentioned, he's different.
Oh, I see.
Yes. I have no question. He said with respect, with all the names I've mentioned, he says he's different. He's different, obviously, because he believes the length of time he's had in government and the influence in both first MPP first and this current MPP administration had allowed him to build a certain, that's his view, popularity, not only within the MPP. I see the look on your face, within the MPP, but also beyond the MPP. And that he appeals to that middle class floating voter more than anybody else. To return, will he fall off the political scene and influence that he wills, that he claims he has, that distinguishes him from the others? That is a question that we will have to wait to see. But I'm saying that the history does not really favor him. But do you agree with his analysis that if you compare the people I've mentioned, he's different?
See, he actually looks like a more formidable force. But let's not kid ourselves. Ghanaians have not shown, and quite regrettably, any interest in third parties. So if it's historical analysis alone, he's likely to fail woefully.
But even isn't the moment different now?
If you bring him, and I'm actually making the point that if you bring him in, it's true that Kyerematen looks more popular now. But even that, sometimes we should have surveys that speak to these matters properly. You know, the beginning of last year, when some people they started doing the surveys and all of that, they were putting way ahead of the vice president. Getting close to the election, they were actually apart at some point. But the SPA delegates told a different story. Of course, we have all been told that the SPA delegates has not told the bigger story. And I also agree with him that there's a chunk of the population who, at least according to a survey, 27% said, see, I'm not aligned to MP or NDC. I just vote as and when I want to. That grouping could actually swing in every direction and may like him. He is likable. I'm not so completely sure about the ability to rally a lot of people. See, I've never heard Alan Kyerematen insult anybody in politics. Since 2000 and whenever he burst on the scene big time, I've never heard him use a tough word even throughout his engagement. And he's a kind of person that looks like a leader, stature-wise. I'm not so sure if he has communicated his vision in the way Nkrumah and Rawlings to get people in your mind, get you in the minds of the people that can bulldoze your way through. So I can agree with him on one side that, see, he's not like the other guys, but he should not be complacent. Yeah. He's not extremely different. He's not Kwame Nkrumah.
He's not.
So not being Kwame Nkrumah is a major negative that you need to push along. I mean, because if you need to convince Ghanaians to abandon their duopoly, you need to do a lot more work.
My answer to that question about whether he's committed political suicide is he hasn't committed political suicide. Not yet.
At least that's what I'm saying.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes, he hasn't committed political suicide. He actually may become a kingmaker next year. May.
I mean, if he fails to become a kingmaker, he drops off completely. And I will not lie to you about that. He doesn't have a political party to run along with. He's not the overtly superior candidates of, listen, he's not, and I'm sure that all the people contesting the election this year, if each of them had taken his path, they would equally be like him. I do not see any extraordinary Nkrumah-like person in the election. So it's not as if there's one that can replace him in that role. Moving it forward, it is up to him to prove people wrong, that he means business, and that he can get the support of the masses. In the Republic of Ghana, people can pledge their support to you with their mouths and would never even show up to go and vote. and you will fail woefully in ways that you never anticipated. I hear him talk about the youth, and when he burst onto the scene in 2007.
Yeah.
See, the people they have at the back of their minds, they don't include him. It is up to him within the period that's talking about
appeal to them,
to let that grouping know that he means business. And you should be radical about it.
In addition to that, and I'll be reading a lot of your messages, in
Okay.
addition to that, what you just said, it also depends on who brings on board to join him in this campaign. It will be critical. He cannot do this alone. He needs a team around him.
It's obvious.
Now, so far, the team around him are from what I see, are people who also come from the MPP stock. If that's all he has,
that's problematic.
He'll have challenges.
I agree with you.
What he needs to do is now to bring people who are with who are overtly neutral, okay, or not. For me, it really depends on his ability to, because he says he wants to build this unity government, so to speak. This is when to demonstrate that between now and next year.
Brilliant.
Who are the individuals who surround him? If all we have is MPP,
Boabia Asamoah,
you know,
it will not be, let's be frank here, since it is politically incorrect, it will not look good. It will look like business as usual. And people are not looking for business as usual.
Yeah.
People are actually looking beyond that. So even the team, and I was happy that the people he deployed in the first round to speak for him were not the old known face, and it didn't go well.
Yeah.
In fact, some of them have defected clearly. They have taken their stance that they are staying with the MPP, and so they are going to make any change in there. We need him to, for example, look into Imani. If today the likes of Bryce Simmons and co are saying that, listen, this is a way forward, I want to back it. If the likes of the grouping at the apex of AGI, if Guta says all our members are looking for a new way out, and we're actually putting our weight behind that, there's resource in there, there's intellectual power in there. If a lot more professors believe that this is the way to go, and I'm saying that the other groupies that have existed in this country, and I've been so disappointed in the duopoly, and I've been thinking that there should be a way out. If he's able to bring them together.
That for me holds the key. And let's read a few of your messages. Ibrahim Saleh Ahmed. It says, I'm watching you live from New York, and this is on our Joe News page. It says, I'm watching you live from New York. So my question is, so Ghana democracy is not mature enough to enforce a couple of debates for all the aspirants before the elections? Well, that's something that we've done. They eventually determine. Yeah.
That puts where we are. So you understand?
A trade fair. It's a gentility, sir. Samuel says, good afternoon, watching live from Nigeria. You have any more comments on this?
Yes, maybe on that one. Is it Evans and Raymond looking at the performance of President Nana-Addo and Bawumia and the kind of suffering that Ghanaians are going through? NDC will win December 7th election. That is Boozy Bethel. Bawumia has failed Ghanaians. That's also the message I actually got from there. Yes, the comment. There's one about Alan has resigned quite too late, as postulated by Dr. Nyahota Maklo. Nonetheless, he could do something significant. If he is to your recommendations, that's Evans's recommendations. Yeah.
To do what?
They listen.
Yeah.
When he talks, they listen. Papa. I require a recent press conference. Oh, no. They listen fully. Oh, the template was clear. Anyway.
As a political strategy, sometimes it's just there.
Yes.
And for me, Alan, what we've said here on the show is going to be a trump card for saving his own political future, because the path is on, as we've analyzed. The history says those who have gone this way often die politically.
Yeah.
But for him, he has an opportunity
to turn things around. And the current state we are in even gives it further. In fact, I'm doing some paper on how economic situations affect the kind of candidates that spring up, and how people react to candidates, and how people look for something different when it comes to candidates all across the world. It shows up in the UK, it shows up in the US, sometimes even